Call the meetings of the Elder Council, O Internet faithful. The messages have low descent from on high. The fulfillment of the prophecies has begun. Let the masses speak in tongues, the softly spoken magic spells prescribed to them. Slaughter the fatted calves for their offerings of meat, and fat upon the spit, and open the casks of the finest wines. Spill them like the blood that flowed as rain for the ancients. Teach your children, and have them pass this down for 10 generations more. Kneel in reverence and fear and praise and despair before the gods. The time of plagues is at an end.
Was that a bit much? I think it might have been a bit much. Anyway, the powers that be have decided that it's time for the inevitable and press forth, or Beethoven's Fifth if you're so inclined, to mobilize the workforce back to, well, work. I suppose back to the workplace would be a more accurate way of putting things. It's not like every industry worldwide shut down so that we could all just live a life of pampered excess and afternoon siestas since early 2020. And not that this is entirely new either. At my own place of employment, we've been working on a toes-in-the-water style of hybrid workweek for the past couple of months, and we're currently gearing up for the next phase toward a 50-50 split of office versus home office. Now, I know what you're thinking. You would be thinking that as someone who, A, doesn't really enjoy the company of most people on a good day, and B, only begrudgingly allows himself to suffer the oppression of the tyranny of pants, I would not be whelmingly positive about these developments, over or otherwise. And, for the most part, you would be correct. But I'd be lying if I said that I haven't been thinking lately about how the new hybrid work environment could actually be beneficial to me in terms of content creation. Sure, I will be the first to admit that there's the obvious downside of having to get up extra early several times a week to start my morning commute 10 minutes before the crack of ass, leaving the sanctuary of a warm and cozy bed in exchange for a sleepy, high-speed foray into the downtown core just so I can sit at a slightly different desk than where I normally sit, wearing slightly different clothes than I would normally wear, to do more or less the same job that I perform on the daily. We will now observe a moment of silence for all of my friends in academia out there who suffered a brain aneurysm from that previous run-on sentence. On the flip side of the whole up at the crack of ass thing, there's the obvious plus side in that those are days that I could easily revive my old Thoughts from My Car podcast. I always really enjoyed just being able to freewheel and do whatever I wanted for those. The freedom to cut loose was almost intoxicating, and when I would really get into a groove and just riff for as long as my mind would wander, it was genuinely a whole lot of fun. And then, of course, there would be the times when my train of thought would come so completely off the rails I would completely forget what I was talking about to begin with until I got into the editing phase and had to publish the damn thing. Of course, it's not like I've been able to have any time to be alone with my thoughts in the car for more than 5 minutes at a stretch to record any new episodes since the dawn of the high plague times, which is when another idea hit me. What if I only had 5 minutes to get my thoughts out? Would it even be possible for me to record a compelling podcast that lasted a mere 5 minutes from intro to end credits? Obviously, I could completely half-ass things and pad it all out artificially in terms of the bookends and cheat my way through past the finish line. I mean, hell, just my standard intro of ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages and all points in between. My name is SomeGuyNamedRob, professional streamer, the velvet voice of social media, master of puppets, pastor of muppets, as well as your reigning, defending, undefeated and undisputed super heavyweight live streaming podcasting champion of the world. And this is the ever-present thread of online entertainment that we call the Some Guy Named Rob Show. It is brought to you by and broadcast live from the International Academy for the Subtle Art of Talking to Oneself. Welcome one, welcome all. I mean, that could easily burn through a full 10% of the show's runtime before I've even had a chance to actually say anything. Or, at the very least, say anything meaningful or interesting that people would want to tune into more than once. After all, what's the point of pouring energy into something when you know full well ahead of time that it'll be at best a novelty one-off hit, and at worst another example of that guy on the internet? No one, and I mean no one, wants to be that guy. At least they shouldn't. For those that do, I suppose there's no accounting for taste. Although hope remains alive that someday they'll develop some. And considering all that's been going on in the world in recent times, can you really say with any honesty that Stranger Things, no, not that Stranger Things, haven't already happened? So what do you think? Is it even worth trying to put together a semi-regular podcast with a 5-minute runtime as the primary creative challenge? Would it be something that you would want to listen to? What topics do you think would be a good fit for a 5-minute format? And, ultimately, do you think it would be any different than the 5-ish minutes of podcast that you've just finished listening to, assuming you've gotten this far? Let me know in the comments. And, of course, for those of you who have made it this far, I guess we'll see you in the next one. This has been episode 0 of the 5-Minute Podcast.